There we go.
Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Clarkdale for Tuesday, February 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Roll call. Vice Mayor Hunsetter. Here. Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
And please note Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We have a quorum. Item number 3 is public comment. The town council invites the public to provide comments at this time. Members of the town council may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter or responding to any criticism or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later time. If you're interested, if you want to come in and come up and speak, you have 5 minutes to speak. If you want to speak from somebody online, you are welcome to just note to our town clerk, Charity Brooks, and she will let you in to speak. So at this time, I will take public comment, and I believe I have Christopher Meinke who would wish to speak. 5 minutes, or just state your name and if you're a Clarkdale resident.
Hey, I'm Christopher Meinke. Yes, I am a Clarkdale resident. I'm coming to you today because out of a concern that I have that I would wish to be addressed and researched. And that is pertaining to one Arizona law 9-499 or town code 7-21-2, which is illegal dumping. Residents along Centerville Road have been receiving violations of weeds or garbage along Centerville, and we're being required to cut down the vegetation and remove it. I believe that to be called a regulatory taking, and I'm trying to determine what our just compensation is in order to maintain this public roadway. As we are being required to go off of our land where we have no deed, no access to that land, and go and maintain this public roadway. So I want to make sure that we're actually doing this according to the law. And I want to know if we are actually due some sort of just compensation for having to go out there and maintain that roadway when it's public roadway. So currently all people, a bunch of people are driving down Centerville and they throw their trash out the windows. And as our property, the back of our properties butts up against Centerville, it is now our responsibility to go and pick up that trash based off of the code. So I'm just asking for clarification on it to see if this is how this is supposed to work, or if the city needs to be the one that's responsible for actually going out and maintaining the Centerville in its entirety. That's butting up against it because that is a right-of-way road. That's it.
Okay. I think it's been noted. I would, if you could leave us your contact information, I think you did here.
Yep,
I'll have, our town manager will reach out to you for a discussion on that item. Is that right?
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to make public comment? Anybody online, Charity? Okay. Seeing no one come up to the microphone or online, let's move on to item 4, which is reports. The first item A is current events. It's the reports of the mayor, vice mayor, and council members. They were all electronically in our packets, so you can read them online. I just want to add one note under the mayor's report. I just want to say a big thank you to my fellow council members and for the Clarkdale residents who were at the Cottonwood City Council work session last night on the airport aircraft noise issue. It was a work session. For me, it was really wonderful to have a support team and the residents there. And I was very proud how all the residents were respectful and of the way they run a work session, which is a little bit different the way we do. But It was still good, but they were respectful, listened, and everybody was able to speak what they wanted to say and ask, and good questions were asked back and forth. But for me, it was great to have all of you there and the town manager there with me as we continue to discuss this item and go forward with where we need to go forward, hopefully. So I just wanted to say thank you so, so much for that. Okay, let's move on to organizational reports, VVTPO.
Yes, we met 2 weeks ago. There's some good progress happening on grants and on NACOG support. So I will continue to keep you all updated and share those minutes as they are available.
Thank you. NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments.
Yeah, a couple of things. I was down in Phoenix on the 29th and 30th of January. We had an executive committee meeting on the 29th and then 30th. All of the COGs down there, Central Arizona Government, Sun Corridor, and NACOG hosted Legislative Day. It was held at the League of Cities and Towns. It was a good agenda. I would have liked to have seen more legislators turn out, but I guess they had a busy day. Bliss was there, Carter, Farnsworth, Shope. No, there might have been one or two others that straggled in and then went back out. So lightly attended compared to last year. We also did hear from the ADOT, and I passed a card to the town manager for contact information there. We heard from Renee, Julian, and there was a lot of very heated discussion about the food tax and also the SB 1013. Those are big. And it was interesting because Neil Carter was very openly announcing that he would vote for the abolishment of food tax. And then there was good representation from mayors and managers from other cities and towns. It's affecting a lot of cities and towns within Arizona. And they all put forth a very good argument. And I'm not sure if it shifted his position, but he listened and found that it was interesting. So it was overall a good use of time. Like I said, I would have been happy to have seen a few more legislators there, but maybe next year. And the next NACOG meeting is next week. And also this week I have a audit committee meeting for NACOG as well.
Great, thank you so much. It's interesting, the food tax discussion is ongoing, and it will be heard in Ways and Means tomorrow morning, and there will be a large contingent from the rural areas showing up down there. NAMWA, Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association.
We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago. Mostly the discussion was on the budget and the services provided by our consultant, and then some legislative updates and general positions for the team.
Great, thank you. Transportation Policy Advisory Council.
Thank you. Our next meeting is on Thursday. I was looking at the agenda before I came over here, and I think we'll mostly be talking about how the RTAC bill is moving through the legislature or not, and continued efforts on NACOG's part to work with our legislators to hopefully get the bill passed.
Great, thank you. Verde Front Leadership Council. Last week we had a Verde Front Partners meeting. That's all the people who are part of committees and stuff under Verde Front all met together. We did some, I would call it sort of updating, a little bit strategic planning. Our Parks and Recreation team, Joni Westcott and Cheryl Smart, both attended also. So we participated in different committees. That's going to be basically create the work product for Verde Front with, I think then when we rolled into the leadership council meeting later on, I think we would like to see like KPIs put together for all of those so that we have a little bit more strategic focus on things like outdoor recreation, the trails map, the trails work that is being done, outdoor economics, impact of recreation on our river and stuff like that are some of the committees. So hopefully that direction was clearly articulated to our staff that works with us, and they can come back with that for us to be able to say what we're doing is making a difference, which is what Verde Friend is all about, is outdoor recreation and outdoor management of the lands along the river and the river itself. So it was a good meeting. Sustaining Flows Committee.
We meet on the 24th.
Okay. Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
Our January meeting was an all-day retreat with Paul Schmidt, who is from Wisconsin and very involved in, yes, thank you, collective impact. And so the entire day was different sessions with different stakeholders about collective impact and how we can really make sure that that is what the organization is working on, and that it is not just this group trying to make things happen, but it's all the organizations who are stakeholders, that they're bringing things to the table and making things happen for the youth in Yavapai. The goal is really to make sure that we are meeting the needs of the underserved. So children under 5 who need access to food, who need access to medical care, especially who might have disabilities and need access to therapy that's harder to get in some of the more outlying areas. So, and we meet quarterly. So that was our quarterly meeting.
Very good meeting. Cottonwood Airport Noise Working Group.
After last night, I'm optimistic that maybe we will reconvene sometime soon. We'll see.
Okay, Vulnerable Road Users, SHSP Emphasis Area Team. I like that.
Yeah.
I come up with a shorter name.
I'm hoping. We did vote this week by email for our chair and vice chair, and we meet for our next meeting in March.
Okay, great. And NACOG Community Action Board. Okay. Those are all of our organizational reports. Let's move on to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on consent this evening. The first one is the prosecuting attorney services for the town of Clarkdale. This is to consider and act upon the renewal of the professional services agreement with Musgrave. I never can say this. That's CAC and Gateau PC to provide prosecuting attorney services for the town of Clarkdale. And the second consent item is the letter of support process for internet service providers. This is a request by staff to approve a letter of support process for any future internet service providers that have been vetted by staff interested in applying for broadband equity access and deployment BEAD funding to bring high-speed internet to Clarkdale. So those are the 2 items on consent. Does any of these want to be pulled for discussion?
I would like to pull item A.
Okay, thank you. So, and anybody wish to pull item B? Okay, hearing nobody, I'd like to take a motion to approve consent agenda item B.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve consent agenda item B as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Let's go back to item A, prosecuting attorney services for the town of Clarkdale.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had the opportunity last week to spend Wednesday in the court with Judge Kelly and with Mr. Butner, and he does an exceptional job in the court working with mostly our residents, but anyone who gets a ticket or who has an issue with the town of Clarkdale. I really encourage everyone to go spend some time in the court, see how it functions, see how they do their day-to-day business. But after being there and watching, I think that there is no doubt in my mind that we should extend this contract.
Any other comments on this item?
I totally concur. I've been to the court a couple of times now, and the work that they do is really exceptional, and I really enjoyed it.
Will you accept a motion?
I sure will.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda item A as presented.
There a second?
One second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve consent agenda item A as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carried. That's all we have on consent agenda. Consent agenda. Let's move on to item 6, new business. Item A is resolution 1730, housing shortage. We are bringing this back after our discussion last meeting, and so to discuss, consider, and act upon this resolution prioritizing affordable housing for all community members and urging the state legislature to address the impact of short-term rentals on the Arizona housing supply. And Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday is speaking on this topic.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the mayor mentioned, we took this under consideration at the previous council meeting. There was quite a bit of discussion about some of the text. Staff went back and made the changes that were suggested by the commissioners, or I'm sorry, the council members and the mayor, and this is what we're bringing back to you.
Okay. Any comments, questions about this? Yes, Marnie.
Thank you. Thank you to staff and anyone else who was involved in this process. I read it and I feel really good about how this represents our community, what we know to be true about our community, the problems that we are facing. And so thank you for all that hard work, and I am excited to pass it tonight, hopefully.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Yes, Lisa.
I was planning on saying pretty much the same thing. I really appreciate that the staff worked so hard on rewording this so it's more than acceptable and shows support to our neighbors. Thank you.
Any other comments on this? Yes, Laura.
Ditto.
I want to just say thank you all for your input in the redoing this to make it really reflect Clarkdale and as others have said, support to our neighbors. So if there's no other comments, I'll take a motion on this.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve, that council approves resolution 1730 prioritizing affordable housing for all community members and urging the state legislature to address the impact of short-term rentals on the Arizona housing supply and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute all documents.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve Resolution 1730, excuse me, as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Let's move on to item B, which is Resolution 1731, making appointments to the Planning Commission. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon this resolution. Town Clerk Charity Brooks will speak to this topic. Charity.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, this past week, the review committee met and we interviewed applicants for the Planning Commission and the Historic Preservation Commission since we have finalized our reorganization after the disbandment of the DRB board. So after the interviews were completed, the review committee would like to bring forth the following interviewees for the Planning Commission. So we have Ida DeBlanc and Marcia Fouts is being recommended to fill 2 regular member seats with terms expiring on September 30th of 2026. And we are bringing forward 1 recommendation for Carol Johnson to fill the advisory member seat with a term expiring on September 30th of 2026 as well.
Any comments?
Yes, I would just like to comment that on this and the following resolution, that I am very pleased and proud that we have so many qualified candidates here in the town of Clarkdale that are willing to step up and volunteer their time to serve on these boards and commissions. And I tell them in every interview that, you know, their work that they do on the boards and commissions is greatly appreciated. We know that they do what I call the heavy lifting, the boots on the ground, the research, the deep dive information, so that we as a council can come back and review that information and feel good about it, can trust what we hear to make good, educated, and qualified decisions. So I want to thank the people that have served on these boards in the past and the new seats that are being filled this time around with this and the following resolution.
Any other comments on that? Okay. I too want to thank those who have served on the Planning Commission in the past for their service to the town of Clarkdale, and look forward to the Planning Commission as it's been reconfigured with the new members. So,
Well, and also that we've got the talent from the DRB
yeah.
in the new, what this new commission's going to look like. So that's, I'm very excited about that
Right.
as well.
I think so. I think that's great to see DRB members becoming part of the Planning Commission, and that's a really good synergy that will happen there. I really think it's appropriate. So with that, if there's any other comments on this?
Take a
If-
motion.
Yes, I will.
Okay, I move that we approve Resolution 1731, making appointments to the Planning Commission and setting terms of office and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute all documents.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve Resolution 1731, making appointments to the Planning Commission as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. Let's move on to item C, Resolution 1732, making appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission. And this is, again, act, discuss, consider, and act upon this resolution making these appointments. And again, Charity Brooks, Town Clerk, will present.
Again, good evening, Mayor and Council. So with this resolution, we are asking the review committee is bringing forth 4 applicants to fill the regular seats on the Historic Preservation Commission. We have Cynthia Mala with a term, we have Carrie Snyder, Mike Westcott, and Matthew Gabbard, all with terms expiring on September 30th. Cynthia Mala is filling a seat that had a term that expires on September 30th of this year. So she's filling that remaining term. And then the other 3 applicants will expire in 2026. And we do have Mike Westcott here as well.
Great.
And Cynthia is here as well.
Yes, she is. Thank you. Any comments on this?
Just a follow-on comment. Again, I'd like to thank the new members coming forward and the ones that have now vacated their seats. And I'm excited to see what, now that the Historic Preservation Ordinance has passed, I'm excited to see the work that that this group is going to do moving forward. There was some things discussed during the interviews, and then I guess they had a great meeting that night talking about some initiatives that might be coming forward. So looking forward to that.
Any other comments on this? I want to thank those who have served on the Historic Preservation Commission. and are not returning for all the work that they have done to get the historic preservation ordinance passed and set this commission on a good path forward. So I want to acknowledge their contribution to our historic preservation initiatives at Clarkdale.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve Resolution 1732, making appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission and setting terms of office, and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute all documents.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to approve what Resolution 1732, making appointments to the Historic Preservation Commission as presented. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much for the team that put this together, and welcome the new members to the boards and commissions. Okay, let's move on to item 6D. It's ratification of an application for a U.S. Department of Transportation grant. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon a request by staff to ratify the submission of an application to the U.S. Department of Transportation, better utilization investment to leverage development. It's a build grant, used to be called a raise grant, to construct, for the construction of Cement Plant Road multimodal improvement project for the amount of $4,700,000. Grants Manager DK Green is presenting this topic. Welcome, DK.
Thank you very much, and thank you, council, for having me. Yeah, I'm very excited to be presenting this grant application. It is for ratification, just due to timing. The submission was in between council meetings, so hence bringing this forth now. But yeah, we would love to come up with some shorter names for these grants, but formerly RAISE, now BUILD. But this is for the construction of the Cement Plant Road and Main Street multimodal improvement project, which would be for multimodal paths, bike lanes, curb and gutter, not only on Cement Plant Road, but down Main Street, where it would then tie into where the sidewalk ends in front of the school. It's a great project. We're really excited to put this forth. Some of the criteria changed, though, ironically, with the new administration coming in. With the RAISE grant, it was there was a lot, not only with safety and connectivity, economic development was a big part of that grant application as well. Though those criteria still hold some weight, with the criteria being changed right at the deadline, I mean, with days prior to the deadline for this application, some of the criteria involving environmental sustainability and equity were actually removed from the needed criteria for this application. Anyway, nonetheless, I think that we told a strong enough story with safety, connectivity, economic development. All of those pieces still hold strong. So hopefully, fingers crossed, with the amount of money that we're asking for, that and there's no match required, which is great. It would be wonderful to obviously to get this grant and get this project completed. The entire team put a lot of time and effort into this, and it would be wonderful to get this done. So, that's why I'm here, and yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, and I believe Town Manager Guthrie has some comments to make also.
I just wanted to add that, just as a reminder, I think you all know, but just in case, that right now this project is under design as a result of a different grant that we wrote, a Smart Fund grant, to pay for the design. It was $280,000, that grant. And one of the obligations when you get that grant is that you go on to apply for a federal grant, because that's a state grant. The intention of those is to leverage that funding to then take advantage of federal funding. So we did have a requirement that we had to apply for a federal grant. This is the one that we chose, and we're really excited about it. And DK, did a great job of responding to those last minute changes, and we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you.
Comments or questions?
I have said this to you in other meetings, and I've said it to Town Manager Guthrie, that I think the example of having to change things at the last minute and being flexible enough and nimble enough and knowledgeable enough to do that, I think the town has done an incredible service to create this position and DK for you to be in it. And I just want to acknowledge that in a council meeting because I've said it to you other places, but, and I know it makes you uncomfortable, but.
I appreciate it.
And we get asked from other municipalities whether we have a position like this. And it is really wonderful to be able to say that we do and that we can see directly the benefit from it. And I know that your position holds a lot of people sort of to a task, and that our department heads are really responsive to that and making sure you have the information you need to be able to submit the grant, and that it is a collaborative effort by everybody. But I just want to say that because I think we made a decision a couple of years ago that this was going to be crucial for us to be able to move forward as a town and to address our aging infrastructure and lots of other things. So I just think this is a wonderful example of how that is really benefiting and how that is coming forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, DK. This is a wonderful opportunity and I'm excited about it and I hope that we get it. So on that note, is there anything that you need from the council, such as letters of support? Anything you need from the community? And likewise.
For this particular project, not at this point. I mean, everything, all of the letters of support that I needed, I was able to get from different areas of the community. But down the road, absolutely, I'll be reaching out.
All right, sounds good.
For sure.
Count on it.
Yes, Marnie.
Thank you. DK, I really enjoyed reading this grant. I know that you didn't have the time that you wanted, but I don't think that shows in the product. And I think the beauty of the Smart Fund funding, and I am so glad that we are taking advantage of that, is that it gives us so much time to know projects, to get them shovel ready, to have a level of understanding that we didn't the first time we wrote a raise grant. That was quite an experience. And so this one is just a totally different thing. And I am really hopeful that they will see that and we will be rewarded. So thank you for all your hard work.
Right. DK, thank you for really shepherding this through and getting it in on time. It was wonderful to read through it. The history of that road and all of that was just wonderful. It was really clear and understandable to me, and it was great to see. And this is a road we've wanted to get taken care of for a long time. The fact that we got the SMART grant really was the beginning of getting this done. And I'm always confident that we do know how to write grants in this town, and it's a team effort. And I feel confident that we will get it. I'm trying to say that if everybody looks that it's important to fund projects across this country for infrastructure, this is one that needs to get funded for us. And I think it has a very strong possibility to have that happen.
Yeah, I think so. Just from the safety standpoint alone, I mean,
Yes.
it's as I've said to Town Manager Guthrie and the team and you all, it's very difficult to quantify and put a monetary value behind safety when we don't have a lot of accidents in that area yet. And this is all about mitigation and what we can do to try to prevent anything like that from happening. I mean, we know how busy this road is. We know the traffic and the heavy trucks and all of that. And never mind the neighborhoods around there and the school. We see the value. I just, hopefully we told a good enough story and we'll see.
I think it's a great story. For those who don't know about that road, it has cement trucks going day and night down that road. 24 hours, they can run down that road. But we also have development along there. We've had the Yavapai Apache Nation build a part of their community across the road. So there's a lot more cross traffic. We know that there are development plans for the parcels that are undeveloped now along Cement Plant Road. This is really critical for safety. No, we haven't had an accident, but guess what? the more things that happen on that road, that possibility will happen. So getting this grant in now, yay. This is a big step for us, and I appreciate all the work you did to shepherd this through. Any other comments? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we ratify the submission of the BUILD, formerly Raised Grant application for the construction of the Cement Plant Road Multimodal Improvement Project in the amount of $4,700,000 and authorize the town manager to sign all required documents related to this grant.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and second by Councilmember Jones to approve the ratification of the submission of the BUILD, formerly Raised Grant application for the construction of cement plant mode multimodal improvement project as presented in the amount of $4,700,000. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
DK.
Appreciate it.
Okay, item 6E is Clark Memorial Clubhouse Policies and Procedures. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon policies and procedures for the Clark Memorial Clubhouse facility rentals. And we have Parks and Recreation Director Joni Westcott to present this topic. Welcome, Joni.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm before you this evening to follow up on our discussion, our work session based on the Clark Memorial Clubhouse policies and procedures. And, oh yes, I forgot I had a PowerPoint. Let me see if I can do it. Okay. So as you recall, in 2023, we went through the process, the DMAIC process. The three major pieces were define and measure and analyze what was going on with our clubhouse. And primarily it was based on, it helped us move forward with identifying problems around staff time to manage the facility, around impacts to the facility, and just the lack of resources to work the events that we had. And the process also greatly identified a cost recovery deficit that we were incurring. So with that, we, per your direction, we raised the fees for slightly for Clarkdale residents and for out of town, for non-Clarkdale residents. And the impact of that has, the positive has been that the facility rentals have actually decreased in number, which is what we were looking for to meet our goal of 2 rentals per month, helping to decrease the wear and tear on the facility. And despite the implemented changes, there continue to be issues with our larger events, 250 to 300 attendees that are serving alcohol. Seem to be what has been a big challenge for our staff and even for those that are in attendance on occasion. And so we, as you know, we met and had a conversation about what kind of solutions we might want to look for to alleviate some of those issues that we were incurring. So the proposed changes that came out of our discussion were to require event time change from 11 p.m. to 10 p.m., where the renters will leave the building at 11, the renters leave the building at 11 versus 12, which is also helpful for to get ambassadors to work our events. They're not working so late. And then we also would like to require wristbands to attendees. I will tell you, we actually kind of piloted that to see how it would go for an event this past weekend. It went well. We learned a lot, have a few little things to consider going forward, but we just kind of wanted to see how it would go. And the idea is that we give the renter the exact number bracelets that they have requested to have attendees in the facility during their rental. And then also wristbands with 21 and over so that they know who can be serving or who can be served alcohol. We discussed limiting to 200 attendees maximum for events serving alcohol. Decreasing the number in the building during that time can alleviate some issues that could get out of hand. And it also kind of helps with staff. If we've got 300 versus 200, still a lot of people, but it's a little more manageable for our police department who also assists with those events. And then we also talked about requiring a town-selected certified bar service company so that the renter would be required to use one of those companies. Those people have certified bartenders who know the policies and the law in serving versus a renter grandpa serving, not usually grandpa, it's usually an aunt, but or a cousin or whatever. But anyway, and then we also talked about limiting alcohol service to 4 hours. Many of our events are 6 or more hours of alcohol service, also with the potential to cause some issues. And then we also talked about limiting the type of alcohol being served or being allowed, being to beer, wine, and champagne. And so we're at a point of deciding which of these things, or if all of these things need to be implemented in order to meet our safety standard, our building protection, et cetera. And let me just turn my page. We also wanted to add that in the future, if needed, council may want to consider increasing the refundable deposits for events with alcohol and kind of showing the seriousness of where we're at. And the staff did not include that as a recommendation today. We hope that these other things will mitigate the issue and that we don't have to go there. Raising those causes potentially our Clarkdale residents to have to pay that extra large fee as well. And so we left it up, but of course, if you would like to consider that now, we can do that. Basically, we recommend that you consider and approve the additional policies and procedures for the Clark Memorial Clubhouse facility rentals.
Thank you, Joni. Comments? Lisa. And then
I
Marnie.
appreciate that you took our work session and implemented just about everything that we discussed. So nice job and concise. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marnie.
Thank you. The same. I think our work session was a great time to talk through the challenges that you're having, how we can really target those, but make sure that the facility is still open to our community, both Clarkdale and outside of Clarkdale, that people can still host events here if that's important to them, that this is still a community space, and that we are protecting it for the future. We are taking care of our staff, the ambassadors, the officers working the events. So I am very happy with everything that you have presented tonight. I do think that larger deposit is a good idea based on some of the issues that we have had in the past, but I also trust your judgment. And if we're not ready to implement that, if we want to test these out, see how it goes before we come to that, I'm okay with that.
Okay, any other comments?
You said you test piloted a little bit of this weekend. Can you tell us what
The bracelets.
the rest? So was that,
Just the bracelets.
was it effective? Was there resistance to it, I guess? And was there-
It was effective to a certain degree. Challenges when you have a long sleeve outfit on, you can't really see the bracelets. But as far as the you know, and the placement of the bracelets, like who's putting them on, who's in charge of that. So we have a few little kinks to figure out on the best practice of that. But overall, it went well. And the renter was actually really excited about that because they don't necessarily want to have, 100 extra people come to their event either. It just happens sometimes.
That's interesting feedback on that one too. Yes. Any other comments?
Actually,
Yes.
just one comes to mind. So with the increased fee and now the reduction in hours, you think that there'll be some pushback as far as a further decrease in rentals? And if so, is there a concern about that, or is that still going to continue to meet our objective of preserving the building and meeting all of our goals?
I think that's a really good question. And one I've pondered, and I think that it is possible we will see somewhat of a decrease because the cost is going to go up if they need to hire a bartending service. If they can't serve alcohol for more than 4 hours, that may not be we may not be a desirable facility any longer. But again, leading back to the staff safety, building protection, I think it's a good place to go. And we actually haven't created a budget goals that we're trying to for the facility. We're just trying to make the money that it costs us back for the facility. So I think it's something that could happen. Yes.
And I also agree with the limitation of audience.
Yeah.
Because we have really old pipes and just the facilities themselves are really old. And I don't think that they can hold up to large crowds as we've seen happen in the past. So
they definitely cannot. And that actually, thank you for bringing that up. That was an issue that happened in our facility this weekend with an event with 200 people. And we did have a sewer backup in the basement, and Public Works had to come out. And fortunately, we didn't have to close down the event. We weren't sure that wasn't going to happen, but they were close enough to the end of their event, and Public Works was able to fix the problem. That may not always be the case. We've got a lot of really old pipes. And so we've talked about changing our signage in the restrooms because it was something that had gotten flushed down. So
a lot of moving parts to this one. So I appreciate your work on coming up with some solutions that will hopefully help us meet our objectives.
yeah.
Do you have something to add, Susan?
I just was hoping that there's a lot of people here in the audience that weren't at the work session. So I just thought it might be helpful to give just a really short summary of some of the issues we've seen that these actions are in
Yeah,
response to.
that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. So for those of you who are not aware, we rent our facility out. We have some events as many as 300 people in the facility. We have found with events with that are serving alcohol, there are a renter may tell us they have 250 people coming, and at the end of the evening, before the rental is over, the people that weren't invited initially are coming into the facility. So it's very difficult. And we have 4 officers at events of that size and 2 clubhouse ambassadors, 2 staff members. Those events have really gone south in a few of them, not all of them. And it's unfortunate because there are a lot of really great events. But the old saying that, a few bad apples can spoil the whole bunch. So, but with that also in mind, we've had minors served alcohol. The alcohol service at events is not always appropriate. We ask that they have designated servers and that they're checking IDs, but that isn't always the case when the aunt is doing the serving, or whoever's doing the serving. And so we've had situations where there have been alcohol on tables. It's really very difficult to manage. And especially when you have 300 people in a facility. Remind me, was there? Right. Yeah.
had police officers assaulted, we've had minors having to be transported, we've had a lot of damage to the facility because when you have that number of people, people sitting on the sinks in the bathroom, ripping them out of the walls, not following the rules about putting things on wood floors and flooring getting damaged. So, I mean, the list goes on and on. It's a very old building, obviously, and we all cherish it. We just want to do the best we can to take care of it and our staff and the other people who are there and even our neighbors. I think at the one event where we had the police officer assaulted, we had youth across the street throwing the chess pieces into the road and,
Yeah.
really wreaking havoc on the surrounding area. And it's few and far between, but it's enough to where it has, risen to something we feel like we need to address it.
Yeah,
So,
and have more control
that's-
over this situation.
Okay, any other comments? I concur a lot with what Marnie said. I'm glad to see all of these new procedures put in place. I think they're a great balance for the use of this building and allowing the public to have access to it. And it is a balance. There's no doubts about it. These are reasonable. Many facilities have very similar kind of limitations or parameters. So I think this will help us a lot. And I think you'll report back to us how these are working, because if we need to institute a higher deposit for some of these, then I think we can look at that after it's been tested. If people get upset about it, I think we just say, this is what we have to do.
And we'd like to have this consideration. So anybody who has a facility rental on the books now, and I
Mhm.
don't think we have a lot, we would potentially, because we didn't have this policy in place when, or any of these policies in place when they initially did their application. So we've talked about kind of grandfathering them in if we're feeling okay about it. And so, yeah.
Grandfather them in, but maybe there's some parts of this that we can
Yes.
institute without an additional cost to them, like the wristbands and some of those parts. Even we could probably do a limiting of the alcohol. I think that would be reasonable to ask them. Those are two things that come to my mind.
Types of alcohol,
Yeah,
Mayor? Okay. Mhm.
yeah, I think that's reasonable.
I would actually say I feel like all of them are reasonable except requiring the bartender.
Yeah.
Because I don't think
that's
any of the rest of them cause the renters to incur additional cost.
Right.
That one does.
Yeah.
But especially like the time change from 10 to 11 is a staffing issue.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I agree. I maybe should have clarified, that's what I agree, is anything that doesn't give them an additional cost.
And I do hope that this will also help our ambassadors feel more comfortable about working. Our Parks and Rec coordinator, Bailey Kozman, had to work an event this weekend
Right.
because we didn't have enough staff to
Yeah.
cover it.
Yeah.
So,
And that's important too, is we have to be really conscious to the ambassador team. So Lisa.
Are there any events that are currently booked that include alcohol?
Yes.
that's a really good question, Councilmember O'Neill. I do not know that answer right at this moment. I forgot to check that.
So
But most likely there is.
okay, so my thought was just, I think that not having a bartender controlling the alcohol is a huge issue. But if they entered into a contract without having to do that, perhaps the town could foot the bill for the bartender, and at least we would protect the facility and implement control. Just a thought.
We're probably talking about a handful.
Not even that many.
Okay.
I feel like I asked Bailey that question. So if there's any, they are recent, but if we can get agreement on the things you want to implement, then maybe allow staff to figure out at what point we can apply these to each of, we'll take a look at how many contracts we have out there, what the situations are, and kind of negotiate with those users, if that's acceptable to you.
I'm seeing agreement that it is acceptable to us to do that. I think what I'm hearing is, do you have anything you want to
I
add?
was just going to
Yeah.
ask if you're ready for a motion. and
Yeah, I
will
think
add
we're
that piece
ready.
of-
Yeah.
Piece onto it. So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you
We'll
ready?
try this, okay? I move that we approve the policies and procedures for Clark Memorial Clubhouse facility rentals as presented with the additional consideration to existing rentals and how these policies can be applied to that.
Is that acceptable? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve the policies and procedures for the Clark Memorial Clubhouse rentals as presented, and to add the stipulation to work with those who have already signed up on how these policies would be applied to them or negotiate with them on the application of these policies.
Understood.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, Joni, for
you.
doing that. Okay, let's move on to item 6F, which is Zoning Code Update Citizen Advisory Committee. This is to discuss, consider, and act upon the appointment of the Zoning Code Update Citizen Advisory Committee, and Assistant Town Manager Ruth May Day will present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, you have a list of nominees for the Zoning Code Update Citizen Advisory Committee. Much like the General Plan Committee, the purpose of this committee is to provide oversight and input from the community and the citizens and the residents in the process of rewriting the zoning code. So they will be meeting on a monthly basis, reviewing proposed text amendments and updates for the code, making suggestions, giving us feedback, so that we can keep this process moving. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Yes. How long are you anticipating this process to take? Are we talking months or years?
Probably, well, we have a year, so it's a year. The grant expires in June of 2026.
Okay.
So it will be a while, but we have a lot of work to do, so.
Okay, so these volunteers will be meeting about 12 meetings. probably
Correct.
12 to 15 meetings.
Yeah, right. There may be some months where they don't meet, but for the most part, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I'd like to thank all of these proposed people.
Any other comments?
I-
I'm really excited. I don't know if this is something we have to do like the general plan committee. Okay. So I'm really excited that we're that we are asking for input from citizens up front. They are going to have a seat at the table. They're going to give us their feedback as we're going through the process. So thank you for bringing folks in.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, Lisa.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank all the volunteers who are stepping forward to support our community. This town runs on volunteers, as all of you volunteers know. And I want you to know that you're very much appreciated.
Thank you. This is great. I like the diversity of people that you've asked to be on this committee. So that's a nice representation throughout the town from our different boards and commissions and the like. So it's a really good list that has come together. So thank you so much.
We will be bringing a public participation plan that outlines how this will work at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this? If not, I'll take a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the appointment of the Zoning Code Update Citizen Advisory Committee.
there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to approve the appointment of the zoning committee update citizen advisory committee as presented. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to item 6G. Acceptance of right-of-way and easement deeds of dedication for Luke Lane and Broadway roads. Discuss, consider, and act upon certain right-of-way and deeds of dedication for Luke Lane and Broadway from Clarkdale, Arizona Central Railroad and Luke Lane Properties LLC. And Assistant Town Manager Ruth Mayday will speak to the topic.
Good evening.
Oh
Mayor,
my
Council,
gosh,
and-
it's here. Yay.
I know. Before you, you have a series of right-of-way dedications and easements from the Verde Canyon Railroad and Luke Lane properties to the town so that we can start working on getting Luke Lane built and widened to to our industrial standard. So we've done this in two different ways. The easements that you see are for the railroad crossings. We don't want to own those. We don't want to maintain those. So we are getting just an easement over those. The dedications are all for rights of way so that we will, or right of ways, excuse me, so that we will actually own Luke Lane. So the only property that we have left to obtain a right-of-way from is going to be Bent River Machine. We've had conversations with them. They're willing to move forward. So those will be the next, that will be the next one that you will see.
Hey, yay. Susan.
And just to tag on to Ruth's comments, if you remember, the reason we're doing this is to develop Luke Lane. And we have applied for legislative appropriation for over $6 million for this project, which would be design and construction to build the road. Vice Mayor Hunsetter, you asked, what can you do to help us? Well, now's the time. Anybody can call our legislators, which would be Senator Fincham, Representative Bliss, and Representative Wynn, because we will need one of them to champion the project. We have made an invitation, and a couple of them are coming for a visit to tour the site. But it's a very exciting project, and we're really hoping that we at least can get the money for the design of the project, which is about a little over $1 million to design that project. So feel free to call.
This is a key component of the economic development we have planned for that area. So getting a road that people can actually drive on and not have to call Bent River and say, we're literally in the sticks. Are you sure you're out here? So it will be great to be able to have a real road for them to drive on.
Yes, Marnie.
I would just like to thank staff for all of your work on accomplishing this. When I look back on my time on council, I know that this will be one of the accomplishments that I feel most proud of. And I feel weird taking credit because I don't think I did anything. But these are the kinds of projects that are so important for the future of Clarkdale. And I think we don't always talk about how important these seemingly small things are. But once we get the bridge built, this is going to be vital for the future. So thank you for your work.
We appreciate the council support on all these projects we bring forward. You could very easily say no.
Mayor, can I?
Yes.
I want to just thank you very much for that comment, but I do want to kind of make a full circle moment here that in order for us to get on the RTEC bill, which is the bill that we're on, we had to get our project on the NACOG priority list for the projects. And so I just want to comment that at the beginning of the meeting, you had Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and Vice Mayor Hunsetter making comments about being on the NACOG board and being on the transportation committees for NACOG. All of that hugely matters to get our projects on the priority list. We were one of 6 in all of a 3-county area to make it on the list, but a lot of that is the advocacy that happens behind the scenes. So thank you so much for all of you who do your committee work and help us to move these things forward behind the scenes. So thank you.
Any other comments? It's great. I have the documents to sign tonight. We know this has been a long time coming. We've been negotiating this. It's had a few bumps in the road, but it looks like we've smoothed out things and it's ready to go. This is an incredible project. This is like the next piece. We are getting the bridge done. We're working on that one. This is the next piece to really give the emphasis needed for that area to show that the businesses that are there, that we're serious about them being there. We want to see them develop. We want to see them expand. We want to see other businesses look at that area for possibilities down the road. And to remind all of us, even the town of Clarkdale owns some property down there too. So it gives access that we clearly haven't had before. Yes, there's been a road, but that road was only by, it was there. It was never by us owning it. It was just there and could have been closed off at any time. So it's great to see this go forward. We get the road, now we get to do the work. And yes, we will work this next month or 6 weeks, whatever it takes, to see if we can get our legislators to truly back it. I think we have that. It just means reinforcements to make it happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, I'll take a motion on this item.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council approve the donation of certain right-of-way and deeds of dedication for Luke Lane and Broadway from Clarkdale, Arizona Central Railroad and Luke Lane Properties LLC, and authorize the mayor, town attorney, and town clerk to execute all documents.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Councilmember Jones and seconded by Vice Mayor Hunstetter to approve the donation of certain right-of-way and deeds of dedication for Luke Lane and Broadway from Clarkdale, Arizona Railroad and Luke Lane Properties LLC, and authorize the mayor, town attorney, and town clerk to execute all documents. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, future agenda items, item 7. We have a list that Charity put in front of us. It looks like we have a work session coming up with the Planning Commission on the 18th. Is that correct? And we have some items for our next meeting on the 25th. Are there any other items that council members would like to put on the agenda? Yes, Lisa.
This is not an agenda item, but it is a invitation to the public to please join us at the dedication and ribbon cutting of our gazebo on the 18th at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Lisa, for putting that up. Just maybe for the February meeting, maybe a legislative update, especially since we have some bills, critical bills that are in the legislature right now, like the food tax and probably SB 10, the housing ones, and maybe the SB 1013, which is the change in requirements for passing taxes, fees, and the like. So I think there will be some critical pieces of legislation we'll want to just update everybody on. Okay, any other items? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Or second.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn from Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and second by Vice Mayor Hunstetter to adjourn the meeting at 7:09 p.m. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all very much for your time today, and thank you, audience, for being here.